I did a video. Flip. Okay. But then I want it over here, right? This is the one I want up here. So that they can see what's going on. And then I want to have. Where's my mouse?
The clarification on the wallet, in what is language in the mind, or wallet.
Okay, so let me do this. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
This will be easy, at least easier for you. I can't fix everything, but.
And, or if you guys even want to scoot down,
That's probably better.
I mean, if you're all comfortable now though,
For your voice.
because the only microphone is right here.
Come on.
So everyone's we gotta make it transparent for the public, we gotta be able to hear us.
Okay, so this is one,
So
that's two, and then if you go, so realistically. You kind of want it like this, right? And then,
Yeah, and then I should go just left.
yeah.
Right, and then it comes back.
Yeah, so like go this way and it's that far end instead of this other.
Sure.
Yeah. we should- we wanna be friends with everyone.
Okay, great.
My voice.
All right. I think we are good, guys. All my junk is down there by Michelle, but that's all right.
Microphones, but they take a bit to set up.
Huh?
They do have microphones, but they take a bit to set up.
Do we want her to set them up, or do we want to ask to set them up? What was that?
I think they're all close enough.
Well, I wonder if we want her to set them up like during our meeting, so that they're set up for the next meeting,
That's smart. This is next piece. Outside the meeting.
right? Should we do that? Okay,
Well, she's bringing the tea, so maybe we have to set them up.
Okay. Can you shift my phone down to me so that I have that at least for during this? Okay, so yeah, like, why don't we go ahead and get started? We'll get started here at 6:12. I apologize, guys, that we are a little bit behind, but we will get started here and then we'll do roll call. Jennifer Avery. Present. Brittany.
Here.
Justin.
Present.
Juanita.
Present.
Olivia. Absent. Daniel. And Catherine.
Present.
All right. And then can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to actually amend the agenda. I would like to make a motion to add the discussion of the, June 4th city council meeting, as well as just like an overview of that discussion, separate from a discussion of Mr. Barr's memo.
So I think we can do it underneath there, but I'm not sure that we actually can amend the agenda just because it's a special meeting. And so we had to like post the agenda in the special meeting. And so I think we have to,
And we can talk about
so I think we can talk about it within that context of the memo.
it. That sounds good.
Just because that's what it's doing. Motion to approve. Okay, we need a motion. Can I get a second? Justin, thank you. All those in favor? Motion passes. All right. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment? Let's see if there is anybody else that's present. I need to figure out how to see. Don't know what I clicked on. If there's anybody from the public that would like to comment, please raise your hand now and I can promote you to speak. How do I, let's see. What? All right. Cornelius, you should be able to unmute and go ahead and speak.
Yeah, I did not raise my hand.
Okay,
Yeah, I appreciate it.
all right, no problem.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? All right, we will close public comment and move along to our first discussion item to review and discuss Attorney Barr's memo.
I would like to just note that the agenda packet actually doesn't include the memos in them. And so I think just for like transparency's sake, it might be nice to just help the public know what these memos say. I don't know if we can just like read the general, this is going through the paragraphs on one and the other is quite long. But I still think it'd be important for people to know what we're discussing.
Sure.
So I'm happy to start with the first one, no one else wants to. The first.
And I'm happy to amend them and like, and put them on the website also while we're sitting here. Yeah, yep, I can do that.
Okay, cool. Then I don't know, you want me to-
I mean, you can, if you want to read it, you can, but I can certainly do that as well.
Well, I think it's good to start with the first one, which was dated 6/12. To, not sure who J and B is. Or from who Alex is, but it's regarding proposed amendments. So I was in attendance at the June 4th city council meeting, where these two ordinances, the eliminating ambiguous language and, changing the complaint process where we're presented to council for first reading. As the interim liaison for the moment, I was allowed to like present on the different conversations that we've had. And I just want to know, like, I was a little disappointed with how staff and like council a little handled that situation because there was numerous conversations from us at meetings about who does it, who writes it first, do staff write it, do we write it?
Right.
And a few days before it was supposed to be on like a May meeting.
Yeah.
I was told that, you know, hey, it's actually you're responsible for writing it. And so not really knowing what I'm doing outside of like knowing how to do templates and knowing how to just use it after using Google and asking questions.
We are volunteers.
Right, I went and wrote 2 requests for legislation. One was for the ambiguous language and the other one was for the complaint process. And typically, when you do requests for legislation, you write a description of why you're doing this, and then also like a summary with like attachments, and that's just like what I've seen based on past city council meetings as like an example. But unfortunately, the conversation on the 4th was very centered around like, this language wasn't exactly approved by us, which is false, like all of us approved the ordinance changes that we all approved. What they were referring to was a description part that I wrote, which is based on all of our conversation that we had been talking about. And so thankfully, Councilmember King and Councilmember Simmons are the ones that put forward those requests for legislation to be on the agenda, because had we done it the way that we did it, or I did it for us, from what the staff told me was that we would have had to wait longer because we didn't approve it exactly as is. So first of all, we need more understanding of the process.
Yeah.
Which city manager, Andrew, agreed to coming to like talk to us about how do we get requests for legislation or resolutions from here to council? Who's responsible, et cetera, what's required?
I thought he was coming to this.
Yeah, I'm not,
But he is on vacation this week.
Oh, that's nice.
So he's on vacation this week and I actually recommended that he not come because my understanding was that this meeting was gonna be a joint meeting. And so before we decided to meet prior to it, I told him that it was gonna be a joint meeting. And so then that is why he's on vacation. So he would have otherwise come. And so he decided that that he would come to our July meeting. And so him and Mr. Barr are happy to make themselves available to help.
I
Work on the
They made
ordinances.
themselves available via email, and I went through back and forth email correspondence with both of them at some point, and so back to, I just wanted to provide context to these memos, because these memos were written in response to that meeting. Because at that meeting, the conversation was leading towards a vote towards no, and Councilmember King, our liaison, asked if they could table it for us to have a better conversation of trying to flesh out their areas of concern. And I'm very grateful I did that because a no would have been not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just saying that, that's what these numbers are in regards to. And so I just wanted just to give that context before we started talking.
Thank you.
Well, just the, JMD is just John.
Oh, duh.
And Alex is the graduate waiting to take her bar exam. Alex for Jasmine. Yes, Mr. Barr tasked her to.
Oh, okay.
It's somebody working in his office it's a law
Okay.
clerk.
So first, on there, the complaint process. There was a lot of discussion on council about the complaint process and what we had written, which was like copied and pasted or modeled off of Ann Arbor's. But what I found like a particular like issue with was Mr. Barr saying that that all of these amendments present numerous holes and risks, which I think is, kind of similar to the first exception that was included in 2020. But us trying to rectify it apparently is like hardship, but, one of them, if they go to the second page where it says proposed line and it says A replaces requirement of verified written complaint with submission allowed in person, by telephone, by mail, or electronically. One of the risks of the two risks he wrote says verified means that the complaint was signed by the complainant before a notary. And I'm just like, thank you for the clarification, because I had asked.
Didn't
back
we
in
reach out
March.
about that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I had asked back in March, what does that mean, before we had even voted on changing a complaint? Because I wanted to come in as fully aware and informed. So we didn't have to come into this situation where we're redoing work that we already did. So I'm glad that was, clarified, if that's what that meant. So I just wanted to note that, but essentially the conversation was they seem to want to maybe separate it, have the complaint still go through Mr. Barr. And then also separately, maybe have a better tracking system, but my argument would still be we should change. Go ahead.
I missed something on the agenda. I apologize.
Oh,
I need a motion to approve May's minutes.
oh,
I'm sorry.
okay.
And this is also another one of those things, guys, like, that we also need, this is my fault, because I made the agenda, and I apologize, but we do need to elect a chair tonight, and so I want to make sure that, like, we're already at 6:24, and so we do need to make sure that we do that tonight, because also some of the things that we're talking about tonight, I think can also be solved if we make sure to elect a chair and a vice chair, because we need somebody that is a point person, that's a number, like, because we need somebody here that's a point person on this body that is the actual chair.
Okay, we got it.
So I thought you had. Yeah, so meeting.
And I apologize. So if we can get a motion to approve the minutes,
Okay, yeah, I'll second that. And then,
All those in favor?
Maybe then, would people be opposed, I guess, like to table before, like would people be opposed to tabling this review and discussion of Mr. Barr's memo? Because personally, like, I would like to read it more thoroughly, and I would like the public to be able to see it as well. And that way that gives us time to move on.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I make a motion to table, is that the right word? Phoebe?
It is, yeah, yep.
All right.
Table it to, do you want to table it to July? Or do you- like, hang on 1 second, I can pull that up.
Thank you.
It would be. Can I see it? Oh, because it's below the times that I'm looking. It would be July 18th. Does that work for everybody here?
That would work for me.
I mean, that's what it's like our regular schedule. That's like the published date,
I-
July 18th.
Yeah, I make a motion to table this conversation or this agenda item until July 18th, please.
And that also can give people an opportunity to go back and watch the Zoom meeting.
Exactly, and the meetings before we had our discussion in the HRC.
Yep.
This should be online now. Thank you, Katie, for putting this on.
Yep, and it's not there yet. That's part of it also is that I'm like, I'm taking minutes, but I'm also trying to do it. And I apologize because that was like completely an error on my part that I didn't get it in that packet or in this
Oh, I'm
packet.
Sorry, I was referring to the videos of our previous meetings.
Yep, they're there. Yeah.
But, okay, then we do a vote now.
Motion was by Kat and seconded by Daniel. All those in favor? Okay, so that is tabled to July 18th. And my question for you guys also is, do we want to invite both Andrew and Mr. Bauer to that meeting?
Yes, yes, that would be great. For questions and answers. General affairs.
Right, great. All right, then moving along to electing a human relations chair to this commission.
I move to elect Kat as chair.
Second.
Oh, wow, I'm on it. That's really sweet.
Pat, do you accept?
Well, do we have to vote? All in favor?
Well, we do it, we do have to vote, but like, but I also, we do have to vote, but I guess the question is like, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I accept the nomination, yes.
Because you have to, it's also, I mean, like, if you don't, there's no point in voting it if you don't want to become, if you don't want to become the chair. There's no point in voting on it. We're not gonna force you dragging and screaming to become it if you don't want to become it. Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Do I get an email?
Do you get it, Ina?
Oh, that's a different conversation, because we need to post it.
All right, so Kat is the chair of the commission, and then we need to elect a vice chair and if Kat is not unavailable to carry out the role.
I move to elect Justin as vice chair. Second, vote, I'm
I had to be honest, my schedule is really, really busy.
Okay.
And I don't want to do a disservice to the community if I cannot uphold those
Who
responsibilities.
emails you second most than Kat?
Dang, don't me on blast. like
Um,
that. I'm just kidding, I'm just.
I'm not sure.
I
You
nominate.
previously said Justin.
I mean, Justin calls me a lot.
I would personally love to nominate Juanita as vice chair here. No? Yay, okay, we're just gonna,
I take it, I guess.
oh, that's what I would say.
Good second.
Okay.
If you accept.
Say what?
If you accept. a second.
We're gonna go round there.
Who seconded Brittany? You said,
Even though we also talked a lot and I just really appreciate.
She said, talking about it.
I agree, everyone does, and I just really, I appreciate, I appreciate what this is seven, that's all.
All right. all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Juanita is the vice chair. So other roles that could be selected, we could, if you guys wanted, you could also, elect a secretary. So it doesn't have to be me by any means. So if you wanted to select a secretary, you could.
I nominate Brittany. Because Brittany takes really good notes, and you're detailed, and we talk about this.
And house on.
Okay. I'm like really so here about here, you know. Is there anyone who would like to do that? First, real fast that. Sorry, Katie. Well, I can help with my notes. I can take notes too, and then the stuff, like share them with you as well, if that's helpful.
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, and you don't have to by any means. I just wanted to put it out there that like it's a role that's like a, you know, like an
Right.
optional role. It's in the bylaws that it could be somebody on the
No,
commission if they want it to be.
That's, I appreciate that. I took notes already, so I'm happy to share.
It definitely feels good to have a chair and a vice chair.
It does. It's wonderful. Thank you guys very much. I think it's helpful because I think that like, again, it's just, I think that there's just like some of the confusion I know is just not knowing who's on first and
Sure.
who's needs to be doing what and who's communicating with who.
I think
And
this helps clear up a lot.
this helps clear up a lot of that, because now when there's things that need to go from this body to staff and back and forth, there's a clear order of communication and a clear delineation of roles, and so I think that will be very helpful.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
You can.
As like the chair, I can look in the note or in the code and look at what the responsibilities are specifically, but in regards to like agenda making and seeking input, is there like a specific day that the agendas need to be done by? Is it like a week prior to the meeting, or like, is there a,
I don't think that there's an agenda day that it has to be done by.
because it's not open meetings act, unless we have a special meeting per se, and then I would have to have a 7-day.
Right. I don't think that there is a day for the agenda. And now that we have, we already have a calendar set,
Okay.
so that doesn't have to be done either. Like, I know that if we do a special meeting, that notice has to be published 18 hours prior to the meeting
Oh, 18 hours,
with an agenda,
okay.
like for a special meeting. And that was why, when we met with YPAC last time, they couldn't vote because we had posted our agenda, but they hadn't, like, we hadn't posted it as a special meeting with them. And we hadn't posted it as a special meeting with them 18 hours prior to that meeting with the agenda. And so that's why they weren't able to participate. This time we did, and I included an agenda, and that's why they can participate, if that makes sense. And that was the loophole. And so I clarified 100 times with Andrew prior to this meeting to make sure that we had like followed every little detail to make sure that that we followed everything. And so actually, even if we had gone through all the memos this time, I'm afraid that we probably would have still broken a rule, since I hadn't posted it in the packet, even though I listed it in the agenda this time, because I missed that step. And so I apologize for that.
Oh.
And so, yeah, we can double check on the, that, but what the process will be is that usually what I've been doing is checking in with Michelle and like saying, hey, is there anything else that you think needs to be on the agenda? And she and I have kind of been like doing that gut check
Okay,
prior to the meeting, and so I'll do that gut check with you now versus with Michelle, just because you're the chair.
okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Again, really fun.
All right, so then we can move on to commissioner report and proposed business. Does anybody have anything to report? I think. Yes, anybody have anything to report?
I have something to report. There was recently a, drug checking resolution presented to city council, which I would argue is like directly, or not, yeah, related to our, commission as, trying to reduce prejudice and discrimination in the city, which a lot of times often involves people who use drugs and the laws that directly impact them. There was a resolution presented to city council at the most recent meeting about, trying to reduce the lowest priority make it the lowest priority for people who have, drug checking equipment on their person if they're part of a drug checking program in the city specifically. When it's in regards to a draft policy being written by the prosecutor's office, but the point is that that resolution was voted no, by a 3-3 vote with the mayor absent, so using, but, I just want to say that as like a way of maybe us thinking about other things outside of these like 3 ordinances that we're gonna be talking about and like working through and fleshing out of the July meeting. I'm thinking like also like future oriented of like other policies that directly impacts our community, as it relates to just laws that criminalize poverty or drug use or homelessness. So I just wanted to put that on people's radar.
Can you describe what that is again?
Yeah, so it's, yeah, I did a really bad job, just gonna admit that, but essentially, drug checking services is a way for people to see what substances that are not reversible by naloxone inside of the substance that that person has on them, and it's a way to reduce opioid overdose. And so people are dying at rapid rates of opioid overdose, and so if they're part of this drug checking program, the prosecutor's office has agreed that, well, not yet, it's a letter of intent that they're writing the policy right now. But the prosecutor's office has agreed to, not prosecute anyone who has items or drug paraphernalia found on them if they are part of this drug checking program, to make sure that they're not being criminalized for utilizing services that are helping them stay safe. And also just meeting them where they're at in that moment to reduce people from dying. And so that's one part of it. And so the city, what we were asking the city was through this resolution was that the city would also recognize that in addition to the prosecutor's office. So that way that YPD or EMU, whoever has jurisdiction in the city, when they arrest people, they don't arrest people essentially, because when you arrest them, the prosecutor will prosecute. So we're wasting resources and time and people's going to jail, sitting there, losing jobs, housing, etc., just for an arrest. When the prosecutor is saying that they will prosecute.
Okay.
Does that clarify?
Yeah, I'm actually gonna look more into that.
Yeah.
I believe Jackson has a program like that.
Grand Rapids, the Red
Yes,
Sox.
implemented, so maybe if we can converse with them, you can figure out a way to implement it in our.
Yeah, I know that they're going.
You said Jackson, and what was the other one?
The Red Project in Grand Rapids. I know there's people working already on developing this program. I was more so wondering how we as a commission body could leverage this position of power to get council to understand the importance of this drug checking program. And I don't think there is one in Jackson, but I think what you're thinking of is the Red Project in Grand Rapids.
Well, I did go to
Oh.
a Jackson community building kind of
Cool.
event,
About that?
about drug, yes.
Cool.
And I know that they did have a similar program where people went in and they were given clean needles and
Yeah,
things of that nature, and they were also given, they could come in for a hot meal, things of that
Nice.
nature, if they were experiencing homelessness. So I'm gonna do some research.
cool, thank you. Yeah, the city of Ipsy actually decriminalized and removed, syringes from the ordinances, so it is legal to have syringes in the city, but, glass pipes and other things like testing strips, I believe. I'm not sure about that one, I have to fact check myself before I say that, but for sure, like, safe glass pipes are considered contraband or paraphernalia. So even like having like safer smoking kits for people to not spread diseases, like that's considered illegal. And so we could work to help change that because that directly involves a large amount of people overrepresented, so.
Would there be, is there a program to have like, different programs that can help people out with addiction?
I'm sure,
Present there too.
I'm not sure the specifics of the actual program, I
Or
think that.
or just be able to get, it's like a mixture of like wraparound service.
I think that's accurate, yeah, I believe it's gonna be a very comprehensive, like, services program, not just like, come test your drugs and leave, it's gonna be like a very big wraparound program, so, yeah.
Yeah,
What our role as, commissioner,
Advocating to council, like, we're saying, like, a resolution to council saying it's important to support, you know, this resolution, try to reduce the lowest priority for this arrest, so that way people can access the services. Just like an advocacy point, not really anything.
which I understand, but, what about, city council members and their wards? Should they be advocating that?
Oh, 100%. I think that the biggest issue that was taking place wasn't really, it was a split divide of the wards. So there were wards, there's 2 council members for each ward. Every one group of wards, people voted yes, and another group that's in the same ward, or the opposite. Does that make sense? Like one person in Ward 1 voted yes, one person in Ward 1 voted no. Same for Ward 2. Same for Ward 3, so it's like hard to know what exactly that is when it's split like that, but I didn't want to have like a full discussion, I just wanted to put on people's radar like a future thing, if people are interested, but I just wanted to put that on the radar. That was a good question.
And I could somehow trickle down to like landlords in some way too, maybe if they
Yeah.
see something.
Oh, wait, what did you say?
I don't know.
I thought you were saying landlord tenant rights, I was gonna say.
Yes,
that's
another-
really great.
that's what I'm
thing we
talking
can
about,
do
yes.
As a group of people, and we can actually create subcommittees too. That's another thing we can do, so the work doesn't just rely on our shoulders the whole time, we can get community members and residents involved, who don't necessarily want the commitment of like a sworn office, but also want to be able to contribute in some way, so.
Yeah, I'll be welcome. Are you able to, get that information from the different entities that you mentioned? Is there any, with that, would you also be able to provide some, if there is any data on how this helps quality of life?
Yeah.
For residents within these areas?
The data part. Yeah, the data part, I think for sure, the people involved part, I can't, it's still like a development.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
exactly, there's like still a conversation, right? Yeah. It's like when this comes out, right. Right, but the data part I for sure can provide, to you. That's important.
And you mentioned, if I'm right, the red project?
Yes.
That was called?
Mm-hmm.
Was there, is that the same in Jackson?
No, they're in Grand Rapids.
But there's one in Jackson.
I'm not familiar with the one in Johnson.
Yeah, I'm gonna look more into that, because I actually forgot their name, but, I remember they have a building, and what they do is they sit down with the individual, discuss what their basic needs are, especially if they're experiencing homelessness. They offer them, like I said, a meal, clean syringes and things of that nature. There's also counseling available, because ultimately it's up to these individuals whether or not they want to get clean and sober, or, and sometimes it actually is a matter of people renting to housing issues and economic issues and that criminal background issues. You know, these are all things that, you know, create a system that is basically, racist against things of this nature. So discrimination is a big thing, and it trickles down, and 90% of the time, what does an addiction come from? Trauma. So, yeah, I'll look more into that and get that name, but I'm pretty sure they're Austin, Jackson.
Everything, yeah, well, I was working with a network of organizations in Kensington. Really, it was, identified as one of the epidemic, or the centers of the opioid epidemic. And so if you ever look up Kensington Street, it's just, you know, it's some stuff that you see there. But there's a lot of services that we get. Conversation about at the time. Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah, I just appreciate the openness because I think I'm trying to think critically and creatively on this commission personally, like about what is possible, because our goal is to reduce discrimination or eliminate it altogether. And so how does that happen? It happens through system level change. And so rather than just like promoting like different programs, this is a program that's wanting to come into the city. So how can we help reduce the systemic and institutional barriers to allow that to happen? Because as of right now, the law would have people who are using those program services arrested. And as of right now, people who are charged with trespassing or loitering are arrested. And it gets you involved in the legal system, as you know, it's just a revolving door because of the lack of support and just constant barriers. So I'm just trying to think like, rather than just like the non-discrimination ordinance, chapter 58, that we are created through, where else is there that the Human Relations Commission's goals can plug into in the city, that way we can start really applying this large net of like, how do we try to do this in every single ordinance, in every single chapter in the city. That's so, thank you.
And I love that, and then I even just have 58 up right now, and even just maybe like, as we're rewriting 58, expanding it to include things like that, and that's where I was kind of leading with my thought earlier, of like protecting tenants' rights of, say, a landlord sees these things, you know, sees this kind of paraphernalia, and I mean, I don't know if that's something that they feel that they can evict on.
Oh, that's a very good point.
But they can't actually, because it's, you know, that they can't even get arrested for it if they're part of a program, if they're, you know.
That's a good point.
There's certain dynamics there, especially with like how sometimes trap houses can create stuff. So, we interested to see kind of how these other cities handle it.
Right,
The complex issues surrounding this whole subject.
yeah, and again, just to reemphasize, it's not like anyone who has, you know, drug paraphernalia on them, it's people who are involved in the services. And that's like the biggest point, because that was a little bit of a confusing point at the city council meeting, was like, anyone can just walk around with drugs and paraphernalia, like, no, it was like people who are involved in this program that they're trying to receive help and support through, like, let's not arrest them and let's keep them engaged in services, because people who are engaged in services, they're more likely to live and be successful than people who aren't.
Well, creating an equal opportunity,
And
for people that don't get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have one,
Okay.
no, correct. One would be, I mentioned before about, the kind of a positive messaging campaign addressing the signs of mental illness by holding various core values that helpful with local meeting law, this is just healthy, forming healthy relations and relationships. Like having positive self-image and the also greater than themselves. And I just wanted to keep that on the radar. There are many discussions around this in other groups. But it's something that I feel like this group could really help to get the word out. Maybe there's good ways that we can make it together. Bring that positive message. There we go to understanding the problem. Here it is.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any other reports or specifically proposed business for the next meeting?
Oh, do we have a public comment or you, oh, sorry, okay, no, I haven't.
All right, well then moving along to our second public comment, which is limited to 3 minutes. If there's anybody who would like to make public comment in person or online, if you're online and like to make public comment, please raise your hand. Yep. All right, Cornell, allow you to.
I did Corn, Ipsy Township. I appreciate you guys bringing up the drug checking resolution. And I do think it would be awesome to propose a resolution in support of that passing in the city. And I'd like to recommend that maybe that be brought up at the joint meeting with YPAC, since that is directly like a law enforcement issue. I heard someone ask what the opposition was or why it didn't pass, and it didn't have anything to do with council members having citizens or constituents in their wards with a problem with the policy. It was just that Chief Moore spoke out and said that he didn't support it because he didn't think it was necessary. He said that they've only made 2 narcotics arrests in the past several months, and so this wouldn't necessarily change anything in police protocols, and it wasn't necessary. We're trying to basically have some accountability for the police department to ensure the safety of participants who are trying to access services. And so it's not, especially if it's not something that's going to change how the department engages folks in the community, then I don't think it should be a problem just kind of getting this passed. So I do plan on attending the joint YPAC meeting as well. I am one of the folks who pushed for that resolution to be put on the agenda and helped in drafting it. And I'm also one of the folks who's going to be starting the drug checking program in Ipsy and is working on the policy with the prosecutor's office. So yeah, I would love to when I get to that joint YPAC meeting to talk to you guys more in person, kind of about what our plans are for getting those services available in Ipsy. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak for public comment?
Plus, I don't have any hand up, I'm not sure it's, that's not, oh, there it is.
All right, Jessica, I unmute or allowed you to unmute if you'd like to speak for 3 minutes.
Hey all, Jessica Henry, Nation Outside. I appreciate everything you guys were talking about today. It's really enlightening about that conversation about the drug check-ins. I'd like to support that if I can find the capacity. We did touch on the Fair Chance Housing for City Council on July 2nd. We've created a toolkit if anybody's interested in using that or sharing it out to maybe your community members so they can come and support on July 2nd. Kat does have a copy of that. And anyone with the link can access that toolkit. I appreciate you guys here today, and congratulations on forming this committee. It's so exciting to be here to see this. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak for public comment? All right, well then I just need a motion to adjourn.
No.
Justin and Daniel seconded. All those in favor? All right, meeting adjourned at 6:55.
What's that? I'm willing to serve in any capacity. I'm still learning.
All right, I'm gonna end the Zoom for this meeting and I'll start it back up at 7:15.
The reality is,